I just want to lay out a little about, what we're up to today. So, some of you know a lot about this program and have participated, so hopefully this won't be too much of a repetition, but there is some new information to share. But for the first 45 minutes or so, we're going to really go through the nuts and bolts of this program, so you have a better understanding of what it is and if it might be a good fit for your organization or company. And then we're going to take a 10-minute break where you can choose to, stick around and join us for the second portion of the workshop, which is really about diving a little deeper into how you might design your internship experience. We're going to provide a few different frameworks, some best practices, maybe invite a couple of our partners that have participated with us to share a little bit about what they've been doing, talk about just sort of how to design your internship. If you feel like at that break that no way, Jose, I'm not going to be able to move forward with this program, you can just leave and don't feel bad about it, right? So we're just trying to save you time. Don't feel like you need to stick around. And in that second half of the workshop too, there's going to be some time, probably a good 30 minutes actually towards the end, like that's really about you just working through some stuff by yourself. We're here as a resource, but if you need to leave, you can also leave. So just setting the framework for today, but I will launch by just saying my name is Leslie Simmons. I'm the Deputy Director at Career Technical Education Foundation, and have been working on this project for a couple of years along with my teammates who I will let introduce themselves. Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brandon Jewell, Director of Programs at CT Foundation. Been here since 2017 and a part of this magnificent three-person team that carries this program at CT Foundation. Jolene?
I'm Jolene Pagini. I'm the Student Success Advisor with CT Foundation, and I've also been working majority of the time with the students in Path to Purpose.
Great. And next up, we're going to actually have each of you introduce yourselves so we know who's in the room. If you could share your name, your organization, and why you are interested in exploring internships or why you're here. And if we could just popcorn it, so after you introduce yourself, if you could call on someone else, I would appreciate it. And I'm going to have Eric start, and I am going to talk about this in the next slide, but I just want to say this partnership was very much developed in partnership with Sonoma County Office of Education. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But Eric is here actually as a internship host. And so he was involved with our program this past year. But I'll go ahead and hit it to you, Eric, to introduce yourself.
So hi, I'm Eric Whitmer's. I'm Director of Communications at Sonoma County Office of Education, aka SCO. And I am interested in this because a long time ago, I was a high school intern myself in my home school district in Wisconsin, and it sparked a passion in me, not for communications at a county office of education, but for journalism, which I did for over 20 years before I joined SCO. And this was just a really cool opportunity to be on the other side of that, mentor and work with a young person. I had a fantastic experience with a senior at Windsor High School who, even though she wasn't interested in communications as a career, we found all sorts of ways in which we could develop skills that would be useful across a number of professions. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. So I'll pass it over to Elizabeth Baird.
Okay. Hello. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Baird. I'm with a number of organizations, including a photography company, my own Elizabeth Baird Photography. I work with an art studio as well. Shout out to Wisconsin, on Wisconsin, Eric. I'm a Madison grad. And I love CTE. I've been involved in the last several years. My son went through the program and was very successful through the program. And then I've had 3 different interns that have been just fantastic. So, interested in seeing about how this continues. Thank you. I'll pass it on to Suzanne.
Good morning. I am Suzanne Tasconi, and I'm with the Sonoma County Family YMCA. We actually participated last year in the internship program, had a wonderful experience with a student from Rohnert Park and she participated in our human resources department, which I'm a part of. So I'm here today just to see how we might be able to build on this experience for next year, possibly bring on some additional interns, how I can best share the experience with my teammates and get them excited about bringing an intern on. So hopefully can learn from everybody here and grab some nuggets that I can take back to our team. So I am going to pass it over to Kirsten.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Kirsten Tejas. I'm with Alexander Valley Healthcare, and we're up in Cloverdale. And I'm here specifically to figure out how we, as a federally qualified health center, can support our Cloverdale students through an internship program. We've been trying to figure out a way to do it, and Leslie and I met, and she promised she could guide us through the process. So I'm here to figure out how we can be guided through the process because it's something we'd like to do. And I'm going to popcorn it over to my other Cloverdale buddy, Luis Gutierrez from La Familia. Hey, Luis.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kristen. This is Luis Gutierrez. I am the Partnerships and Programs Manager with La Familia Sana. I'm here for this meeting because, just like Kirsten said, I'm interested in learning how we might be able to bring an additional resource to Cloverdale for our students. I know that internships are invaluable, so being able to offer that would be amazing. And so shout out to Leslie for letting us know about the opportunity so that we could be here for this meeting. I'm very excited to be a part of this. And I will popcorn it over to Magali.
Thank you, Luis. Good morning, everybody. I'm Magali Telles with Lucien. Who's the? I don't know. I'm undercaffeinated. So I'm here because I'd love to learn more. We've had success with high school interns. We've had incredible high school interns in the past that are just add so much value to the organization. So I'm just here to learn as much as I can, and I'm gonna popcorn it over to Gustavo.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. So good to see you, Magali. It's always a pleasure seeing you and reconnecting with my Sonoma County folks. My name is Gustavo Sanchez. I'm the community engagement coordinator at Medic Ambulance. And Magali, quickly, I'm just right down the street from where you are. So we'll got to catch up soon. And then I want to hand it over to my colleagues and trainers and mentors, Brian and Jack. Go ahead, Brian.
Good morning. So I'm Brian Smith with the Medic Ambulance, Sonoma County Fire EMS. We are returning. We hosted 3 students last year in the first year of the Path to Purpose, and we had actually hosted a previous student or a graduating senior a year before that in the previous program, who is one of our employees now in our SST program. We're excited. We're able to give students a kind of a snapshot look at working on an ambulance. For those folks that are interested in that career, it allows them to see what it's all about and allows us to kind of get a look at them and also give them that experience to see if this is truly the direction that they want to go in, and really enjoy doing this program. And I'm excited, looking forward to continue.
So my name is Jack Bagnoli. I'm the employee engagement coordinator here at Medic Ambulance in Sonoma County Fire District Emergency Medical Services. That's a mouthful. And as the employee engagement coordinator, I've gotten to see firsthand what a program of this nature does for a student that potentially wants to move into this industry. As Brian was saying, we had a student that was participating in the program and then has now become one of our supply service technicians. And it's been such a good fit for this young person, great introduction to the industry, and I'm just excited to see what this can do for more students moving forward. And since I was last, I'm going to popcorn to, I don't see anybody that have, Kristen.
I think she already.
Did you already go? Sorry.
Why don't we go to Steve?
Yeah, hey there. My name's Stephen Potter. I'm at the Public Safety Training Center in Windsor. Part of the center is a junior college. I'm the director of law enforcement training. I'm an associate dean here on this campus. I'm also going to be passing this information on to my partners in EMS, ARTSIA, and the fire technology program, Ken Sebastiani. And our hope is to be able to host internships here at the training center. Outreach to high schools is a big part of my job. I attend a lot of career fairs in Sonoma, Marin, Napa counties. I love doing it. And we've hosted several seniors from Windsor High School and other high schools for their senior projects and got them the hours they need in volunteer work. So I think it's a good fit. And we'd like to see more high school students on campus and nurturing that relationship with our next generation of public safety professionals. So that's why I'm here.
Great. And last but not least, Nicole.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my name is Nicole Carreri with the Sonoma Land Trust. I'm the outreach coordinator, and currently Sonoma Land Trust hosts around 10 interns annually, just through our own internal hiring. But we're looking to expand and potentially develop those internships that we already do have. So I'm here to learn more from the rest of the Sonoma County community.
Great. Thank you all so much. And we're not missing anybody, right? Yeah, so it's great to see who all is in the room. And want to just say that we are convening this meeting, and we have been convening people like you for the last 2 years around this work. And just because we are the convener, I want to just acknowledge that it's taken a lot of partners to get to this point. And SCO has been one of the biggest partners. We've spent countless hours closed up in a room to do some program design and to do analysis of all the feedback that we've gotten from our community and our students to make sure that we really design this with the most intention to build an equitable experience for students and support our employers. It's really about a shared mission over any individual organization's gain. And that's what we're all about here today. And I just want to frame this that way. And you all are equal partners in helping really shape a really amazing program for our students. So just putting that out as far as our values with this work. And next up, we're going to share a short video that provides a very brief overview of what the program is. This is actually a video that we produced this past couple weeks internally for a grant application that we're applying to. So everybody cross your fingers really hard. We do need to expand our staffing here at CTE Foundation to support this work, and so we can serve more students. And so this is part of that effort that we've actually already submitted. So I'm just going to let Brandon cue that up.
Every time I walk into the office, I feel so much more at place. I feel comfortable, I feel at home, and I'm excited to come in and bring my knowledge into the room, into the office, into the projects. I think this would impact so many students in such a positive and great way. Just how it impacted me, I think it would also impact other students who don't know exactly what path to take in their life. I want to dedicate my life to this.
Rosie needed someone to open a door, and every student deserves that same chance. However, for too long, equitable access to career-connected learning has not existed in Sonoma County. We at CTE Foundation aim to solve that. So, CTE Foundation built Path to Purpose, one coordinated, county-wide system that gives students from every high school a real way into internships with local employer partners across our major economic drivers. And here's what makes it work. Our employer partners don't just host students, they help build the system. Two of our largest healthcare providers, Kaiser Permanente and Sutter Health, worked alongside us to design high-quality internships in both clinical and administrative settings for students. Our partners are doing more than providing placements. They're shaping what work-based learning looks like for every student. In Sonoma County, the high cost of living and economic pressures put real barriers in front of young people. Employers struggle to find talent and build a lasting local pipeline. And students are ready to build skills and connect to a future that they can picture themselves in, whether that's a career, college, or beyond. Without a unified system, access across Sonoma County will remain uneven. And every year that passes, another class of students graduate having missed real opportunity. That gap won't close by itself. Now is the moment to fix it. Employers are already co-designing this with us, and neighboring counties are expressing interest in adopting Path to Purpose. So, we're asking you to invest in what makes this last and grow so that we can have 150 student placements next year and co-design a playbook any community can adopt without starting from scratch. The door should not be opened by luck. It should be opened by design and opened for every single student who wants an opportunity.
All right. Give me a quick sec here. I'm going to. All right. Can you guys still see the screen? Yeah. Did the audio and video play okay smoothly?
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of switched it to the video share option last minute. I wanted to make sure it worked. So I want to talk a little bit about the challenge that we set out to solve, I guess, with this issue. And as you saw in that video, equitable access to internship opportunities was really dependent on where a student went to school. And that's just not equitable for them. They had to have a program or people at that school that were dedicated to making connections and building internships. You can go right down the street to one school and it was okay, and you'd go right down the street to another school and they had no opportunities. So we set out to create a really accessible countywide internship program while also making it really as easy as possible for the employers. The employers, we've worked with a lot of employers, as Leslie mentioned, building this program. And a big challenge was that the definition of an internship changed depending on the program, depending on where you went. Again, we wanted to have this kind of one countywide approach, where when the word kind of internships gets brought up, this is kind of what we want people to think about. And then we really wanted it to be as easy as possible. And so so that was the kind of the question, is how can we make that happen? And the solution that we created was this Path to Purpose program, a countywide internship program that makes it as easy as possible, both for the student side and the employer side, and recognizing that there are a lot of safety things that we need to consider. There's legal compliance, differences between paid and unpaid internships, live scan background checks, all these things that we as the program facilitators want to make sure that we are not only aware of, but we're helping employers make sure that they are kind of up to the level and compliant with all of those things. And in the end, really creating a high quality experience for the interns, which is kind of, one of the most paramount things we want out of this program. So when it comes to Path to Purpose, what did we build? And a lot of you in this meeting today, you participated in past years, but for those who are new, this is going to be a little bit new to you. But as I mentioned, we have a universal countywide application for all Sonoma County high school juniors and seniors. So they do have to be juniors and seniors to apply. And it goes out to all regular comprehensive high schools, all alternative high schools. We're really working on expanding our reach to more high schools. We interview every single applicant, which is really special. We really dive in and learn more about each student before making a placement. When we make a placement, that internship is a 40 hours total over an entire semester. So we're talking 8 hours a week, generally, depending on how you want to structure your internship. Internships can be paid or unpaid, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Students are earning early college credit from the junior college. That is really nice. It gives them a leg up for their next steps after high school, makes them a college student now while in high school, and also gives them some extra support structures. And they have an instructor that really kind of works with them and coaches them. We do, as I mentioned before, we kind of help facilitate the LifeScan background checks and all of that kind of stuff to make sure that everyone's safe and everyone's compliant. And then overall, we offer just fully wraparound supports to both the students and the employers. Jolene's role is specifically around focusing on assisting the interns, the students before they're interns, and then the interns when they're in their internships, and really helping them on an individual basis. My role and Leslie's role largely is around the employer side of thing, making sure that all of you have all your questions answered and have the support you need. We really have an open door policy where anyone can kind of reach out to us anytime to ask any individual questions. But we also host regular workshops like this that are designed to kind of help you all kind of prepare for this and make sure it's as high quality as possible. And then our website is full of tools and resources that we're just constantly adding to. Okay. I want to go over timeline. Now, there were a couple people here who mentioned a previous internship program. That one was called Sonoma Core. We don't do that necessarily anymore. That one was a great program, but it wasn't a countywide program. And so we built this, learning what we learned from the last program, learning what we learned from a lot of our employer partners and youth organizations. And we built Path to Purpose, and it's a much shorter experience, but the timeline might seem long. So I'm going to go over that real quick. So basically, between now and September, we're doing a lot of employer recruitment and onboarding. We're going to be working in groups and individually with all of you employers to help build internships. One of the things we'll start today is to start to build whatever job descriptions that you might be creating for those roles, for those internship roles. The application will open on August 12th, which is basically like the first day of school for high schoolers. And then it'll close on September 23rd. So we'll be doing a lot of outreach in that time to schools, talking to a lot of students, teachers, counselors, all that. And then there's also, we are partnering with the SRJC on a pre-internship course that's available to students that kind of coincides with this application time to help them prepare for what they need to apply, like getting a resume and cover letter and all that. Come November, we're going to be doing a lot of interviews, as kind of mentioned earlier. We interview every eligible applicant, and then we'll make the placements with you. And so what we do is we first check with the student, say, hey, we want to place you at this place. We think it's a great fit for these reasons. Do you accept that? When they say yes, we then will connect them to the employer. The employer also has the capability to pull out if for whatever reason it's not a good fit. And then during this time, once a placement's made, is when we want to start doing the fingerprinting, the LifeScan fingerprint background checks for any supervisor, anyone who is a direct supervisor. Not all supervisors. If there's multiple supervisors in an organization, we don't need that. It's just whoever's the supervisor of the intern. And then come the start of next year, continue doing fingerprints, background checks if they're not complete yet. We'll have some orientations both on the employer side and this intern side. And we also work with parents for those orientations as well when we meet with the students. But the internships themselves will begin in February-ish, and that's flexible. But ideally, like right around early February is when they begin. We'll offer ongoing support until when they end around late April, mid-May, somewhere around there. We don't want to go too much past that because students are going to be getting ready for finals. And then it's important to know that as an employer, you will have somewhere near the end of that internship, you'll have to meet with the SRJC instructor for the work experience class that intern is going through. But that's just one, usually like 30 to 45-minute meeting. It's not too bad. And you meet with the intern and the instructor. And then, we'll have some post internship surveys that we'll send out to get some feedback so we can constantly grow this program. I'm going to actually just real quick stop it there. because I want to just see if there's any questions about the structure of the program or the timeline, because I know we went through that pretty quick.
I have a question.
Oh,
Sure, a couple.
Sorry, can I jump in? Sorry, Magali.
you're good.
Do all students enroll with the SRJC program? Is that a requirement of participation?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Not only do we think it's a good support for
Sure.
the student, but also since we have paid and unpaid opportunities, a paid internship is they're an employee of the organization and therefore they're under their liability. For unpaid, this is a way we make sure that the intern has coverage because they are covered under the SRJC work experience department for that role. So that's
Thank you.
another reason we make it required. Magali, did you have a question?
Yeah, my question was just to make sure I wrote this correctly. I understood kind of the process, but the intern would be placed, like they would start their role February and end it by mid-May. So, okay.
So you're basically like within that spring semester.
Yeah.
They just have to complete 40 hours of
Total.
work total. Yeah. And so however you want to split that out during that time, our strong recommendation is that they do start a little bit, around February-ish, because we did have some that started as late as March last year, and it did become a challenge to kind of make sure they had their hours, because we're talking like depending on student school schedule, they might be working, a couple hours a day, 2 days a week, or something like that. So we just want to make sure they get the proper number of hours.
Thank you.
Yeah. Eric.
I was just gonna say, just to add my experience to this, Magali. Last year our intern started, I think well, we had three, but the intern I worked with directly started in February-ish, and we had like no problem completing the 40 hours by, I want to say it was like maybe early April or something, mid-April. And it's like, yeah, if you're doing like 4 to 8 hours per week, like it goes by really fast.
I think it's
Also,
important to, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to add to the hours piece, is that there's also some creative ways to go around it. Sometimes during a student's spring break, if they're not leaving on vacation with family or something, they might be available to work, quite a bit more hours in a day to kind of make up some hours if needed. Leslie,
I was
sorry.
going to say too, just that is the minimum, right? And so there's always discussions you can have. And you can also, when you're filling out your job description, you can indicate if you're expecting that you would want more hours, and then we can match you with an intern who is looking for more hours. And then also, some of our employers have continued working with the student beyond the internship period, which is 100% okay. And so if you know that you have programming coming up in May, June, July, that you want that intern to support, it's a great way to, test them out and see how it's going. And then they might be able to transition into a more permanent role.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because usually we like to keep our interns, just because like we're such a tiny team that anytime we invest in them, like we're like, okay, now we got to keep you longer. Thank you.
And I just want to put this out there that we don't have this answer yet. There's a possibility that the state is going to be asking schools to report internships that are 50 hours. And if that does, and we're still trying to figure it out and get answers from the state if that's going to be the requirement. But if that's the case, we're going to really try on this program to just bump that number to 50 to make sure that it's in line with what the schools need to report to the state. So just putting that out there. Right now it's 40, but we might try to bump it later if we get that info. Any other questions?
I have a question. So when it comes to matching interns, is that directed by the skill set and interest of the intern candidate, or is it more directed by your guys' matching criteria?
Yeah, great question. It is very multifaceted, and it is the most complicated puzzle I've ever done last year. But really, what it comes down to is the two most important things are, yes, a student's interest in that role or industry, but second, well, very close is the student schedule. Because, so for example, if there's a place that's open and says, I can take an intern from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., well, then a student that gets off at 3:35, if they don't have like a free period, may not work for them, because then that means that they're not going to start until 4, and then they're only going to get 1 hour in a day, and they're going to literally have to work pretty much almost every day, right? To make up those 40 hours. So we really employers are kind of lucky the fact that last year we had 250 applicants. So we really had a lot of students to go through to really make sure that we found the right, as close as fit as we could find, and that the schedules worked as well. It's also important to mention that, so yes, the interest and availability is top, but we do ask questions like age, because some roles are age specific. They maybe need to be a certain age. Um, Driver's license and access to transportation. We take a look at where they are geographically, and we try to match them with something that makes it so that they don't really have to drive too far to go. I'm not going to set a Sonoma Valley High School student up in Healdsburg, for example. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
But it is very multifaceted, and we look at all of that. If there's no more and we'll have more time for more questions. Oh yeah, Lisa.
But to be clear, you're saying, Brandon, that for the most part, their hours worked are after school hours, not during school hours.
Yes. Yes. In very rare cases, they might have a class that allows them to leave for the internship. In most cases, that's not going to be the case. More likely, it'll be a free period, like a senior, some juniors, but seniors might have a free period. That's really great, because then it means that they can, start at 1:30 or 2, or depending on the school schedule. But in some cases, like maybe for you, right, if you're doing events on a Saturday or Sunday, it might be okay to have a student with kind of limited availability during the week if you know that they can easily work a 6 to 8 hour shift on a Saturday with you. And so we look at all that. Okay, I am going to kick back into this.
Let's go ahead and skip the by the numbers slide, Brandon, and just go right into lessons learned.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like to talk a little bit about some improvements that we're making this year, and these came directly from conversations that we've been having with employers from last year's cohort, and just kind of some challenges that they were having, challenges students were having, and so these are some changes we're making. So the first thing we noticed was that the wraparound support was really, really helpful for both students and employers. So we really want to lean into regular communication moving forward. So regular check-ins with students, and then also hopefully regular check-ins with employers, especially if challenges are coming up. So we can kind of ahead of time address those and work through them together. Something else we want to focus on is more transparency, and that is for students in terms of what the jobs are that they might potentially be placed in. So making sure they understand the organizations that are working with us, the roles that are available, just so they have a better idea of what they're signing up for and getting into. But then also more transparency with employers. And so that is around the placement, so sharing student resumes, maybe their cover letters, so employers know the level of experience, which is typically very low, that students are coming into this with, as well as what the students' goals are, and then also a little bit more of an understanding of why that student was placed with you. We could go to the next one. And then, yeah, something that we did not do last year, but we would like to do this year is mandatory attendance at orientation for interns and employers. We think that this would be really helpful to kind of set the tone, especially with interns, so we can really go over workplace expectations, dress code, punctuality, things like that. And then also with employers, just as a final, making sure everyone's ready, they have everything they need. Um, and then again, this improved interview and placement process. This is mostly around making sure we get a really clear idea of the students' schedules and employer schedules so that when we're matching them, um, employers aren't running into complications like, we thought they would be available at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and they actually aren't. Just so we make sure we're setting both of you up for success in terms of completing the 40 hours. And then again, we kind of just like to go over this because we are working with 16 to 18-year-olds. And so a majority of the time, this internship that they're participating in is their first job or work experience. And so just really putting it out there that they're coming into this experience to learn. So there's a lot of things that they might not be perfect in right now. So I got lost. We'll just go bullet by bullet. So something that we learned just from talking to interns about their experience is that they're coming into this really eager, really excited, and they really want to be useful and they want to feel like the tasks that they are engaging in are meaningful to them and to the place that they're working at. So we are trying to not completely move away from busy work because I think that's very much part of the experience as well, but making sure that they understand the value of the work that they're doing. So that's just something we wanted to put out there. And then again, they might not be aware of workplace expectations. So being very clear with the expectations, either day one or before they start. So what's their schedule? When do they need to be there? What is the dress code? Sometimes this comes up if you don't explicitly say it. They might show up in flip-flops and a tank top or something like that. So this is important to remember that they just might not know what's appropriate yet. And then clarity around who their supervisor is and who they should communicate with if things come up for them. And then also how to communicate. So a lot of students are probably used to texting more than they're used to using email. So that's another thing that you might have to go over and just explain. If you're running late, it's okay to text me. If it's a bigger issue or something that isn't as immediate, we would prefer if you used email, so something like that. And then just to talk about schedule a little bit more, we want to get really clear on student schedules, so when they're available, and we also want employers to be very clear about their availability as well. And then to remember that a lot of these students are coming to work after they get out of school. So if you have a 1 p.m. start time, that might limit how many students are available for internship. So if possible, something that we did at CTE Foundation was we typically are all out of the office by 5 or 5:30, and we all chose to stay open until 6 just to make sure that students were able to get their hours. So if there's flexibility that you can have around your schedule, that helps a lot with the matching process as well.
Lisa, I saw you like nodding your head when talking about dress. I can imagine both with your son, Zach, and with your interns. I'm sure you've seen that. Um, so I want to talk about kind of what's expected of the internship host, you. Um, we really do need, if you want to participate in this program, like this, from here all the way through November is all leading up to the placements. But in order to promote with students what opportunities we have, and also so the CTE Foundation is very aware as we're interviewing students, um, we're thinking about all of the different opportunities, different internship opportunities, and we're sitting there taking notes. And I think person would be great for this or that. It would be ideal to have the job descriptions to us by September 1st. Um, we'll go over the job description today, and it's a Google form now because we want to make sure that we really get all the information that we need, and we'll go over that. But by September 1st would be ideal. Um, what you need to do is make sure that you have a designated internship supervisor. Um, we really want you to attend that orientation, as Jolene mentioned earlier, that is going to happen on January 15th at 9 a.m. We will send more information out about that as the date nears. As we mentioned, provide a minimum 40 hours in the spring semester, um, and then support your intern through their SRJC course. And what that looks like, again, we'll go over it a little bit more, but help them build whatever learning goals that they have to do. They'll have a handful of assignments that you usually don't need to be a part of, but they might ask you some questions to help them, write that paper or something like that, or learn more about the role. And then you will meet with the internship instructor. So, and then there's a lot of, compliance stuff, paperwork, safety stuff that we want to go over. With every employer who is taking an intern, we do have an MOU that we will send to you and have you sign. It's not like it secures your place. You could pull out at any time if business things change or staff changes. That's totally okay.
Brandon, this
But
slide didn't advance. So I don't know if it's just frozen or
oh,
yeah, there you go.
sorry,
Thanks.
it made me click a few times. Thank you for saying that. Um, yeah, MOU, that MOU will really lay out expectations for everyone. We have a separate agreement for the direct supervisors. And the reason is because we don't want the CEO signing a paper, but then this direct supervisor not necessarily saying, I also understand my role in this. So those are two kind of separate pieces. Um, as mentioned, any direct supervisors will have to have to pass a live scan fingerprint background check. And we'll help facilitate all that. We at CT Foundation pay for the FBI and DOJ fees for that. But also legally required in California is any direct supervisor of youth needs to take a California mandated reporter training that you can usually do for free online. I can't remember, Jolene, maybe you do an hour or two. Like it wasn't.
Yeah, it's quick.
And then every employer kind of has to do this already, but so we're not going to check on it necessarily, but the supervisor should also have taken a harassment prevention training. And then the last thing is we really want to again make sure that the students are safe, and also kind of cover a little bit of our butts a little bit at CT Foundation. So we're asking for proof of insurance, and then we're asking that you work with your insurance provider to name CT Foundation as additionally insured. And so we'll work with you from here to February to get that. Okay.
Do we want to stop for questions about any of that at all, or just keep going?
A little concerned on time.
Okay. I'll go through this really quick then. We just wanted to share a little bit of experience about this or information about the SRJC class because this is something that is required by all of the interns. So there's very little, there's just a few expectations on your end in terms of the SRJC class. One of them is that at the very beginning of the internship, students in their class, and then before their class with you, they will be developing learning goals. So three of them for their internship, and that's probably based off of the role and the job description that you have for them. And they're going to be identifying specific things that they want to work on and improve on. And then you will have to review those and sign off on them. And that's an assignment that they have to submit pretty early on in the class. So just so you know, that's something that they have to do in partnership with you. And then this 40-hour requirement is also that requirement is also coming from the SRJC class. So if students don't meet that 40-hour requirement, they can't pass the class. So that is really important for their grade that they get in their college class that they're taking. And then at the end of the internship, there is only one meeting that you have to have with the student and their SRJC instructor. And this is just an end of internship debrief meeting where you talk about the goals that they made at the beginning of the semester and kind of evaluate if they achieved those or not. So the lift here in terms of the SRJC is pretty light on the employer side. For the most part, this is entirely the intern's responsibility to facilitate with you. So it's not your responsibility to be asking them if they've set up that meeting yet or anything like you. That's not something that you need to worry about, but just so you know, it should be happening and it's probably coming. And then also, just for your information, students are juniors or seniors in high school have a full course load, are doing this internship, and they are also taking this college class that has coursework that they're required to complete as well. So this course is fully online, so they don't have to go in person, so it doesn't really interfere with their schedule at all, but they do have to complete this. It's the 40 internship hours, and then they are supposed to be completing 15 hours of coursework as well. And then these are just some sample assignments that they might be working on, things like updating their resume. They have to track their hours that they're completing with their internship, turn that in as well. But again, they have all of that paperwork, and that's their responsibility to be on top of.
So what we want to do now actually is, I think, so we kind of set it up to end around 9:50 for this first part, take a 10-minute break, and then join back at 10, and then we'll actually kind of get into starting to design and build our internships. And I think that maybe what we'll do is we'll take a break. However, if anybody has questions that they'd like to ask, let's take that 10 minutes time to do that. And as Leslie mentioned previously, you're welcome to leave if you've stayed through and realized that this might not be a good fit for your organization. So okay, so we'll just kind of I'm gonna put a little bit of music on again, I guess. And we'll just kind of, if anybody has any questions, feel free to speak up. We'll be here.
I had a question. If we've already done the MOU last year, so is it every year? It's an annual MOU?
Leslie, you already answered.
Yeah, I did. I think we did a 1-year MOU last year because we weren't quite sure what it was going to look like. So, we can either do an addendum or an amendment to that. I don't remember which was which, but or we can just do another one for like do a 3-year. And I'm curious to hear from internship hosts. It's not like there's any real binding. It's not like there's a requirement to take an intern, right, with the MOU. So it does feel like it might just be easier to move to like a 3-year MOU so that we don't have to do it every year.
Yeah, I think that we would prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
Similar question was asked around live scan background checks in the chat, and just want to call out that the way live scan background checks work is if you've been live scanned for something else, a different program, you will have to be live scanned again. So like if you were live scanned because your kid goes to a certain school, and you were helping with a school event, there's no sharing agreements in that sense where we can oversee their live scans. However, what we did create is agreements with all of the districts where we now, for this program, can live scan um, Path to Purpose supervisors. And we keep an eye on that. It's called the custodian of records. And if you have been, once you're basically in our system where we have your record, you won't need to get it again. So if you've been live scanned previously through Path to Purpose, then no worries, or you or your supervisors, no worries, they don't have to do it again. But if somebody new comes along, then yes.
Brandon, is that similar for the rest of the requirements, the harassment training and the mandated reporting? It's like a one-time thing. Or is
Mandated
that
reporter
or is
and
that
Joe,
yearly?
yeah, Jolene, I might ask you because you might know, but I think mandated reporter is every 2 or 3 years by state law.
I'm required to
Um,
take it every year as an educational employee. So
yeah, I think it's different for those who are not directly. Well, I don't know. That's a great question, Elizabeth. I'll look into it, and I'll let you know.
The harassment training, all of our employees at the county take that training, and it's a 2 year. Every 2 years they have to do it.
The harassment, yeah,
Harassment training. We
yeah,
actually even had our interns take it, um, because we want them to know that they have rights and, you know, they too have a voice if somebody is treating them in a way they shouldn't be treated. We
Mhm.
have all interns do that anyway. All interns to the county take it, and even unpaid interns take it. So
Great. I just did a quick Google search, and it does look, Eric, you mentioned you have to do it every year. Those in education have to do it every year. Those who are serving youth but not in education, like a daycare provider or other professionals taking youth, it's every 2 years. That's what Google says. And Google doesn't lie, right?
I have another question.
Yeah,
So
sure.
do you think the expectation is that majority of these interns are paid? Because this is a very different structure. It takes me 40 hours to even ramp up to even get, for the most part,
Yeah.
people trained to even, you know.
Yeah. I will go into the differences of what you can and cannot do depending on if it's paid or unpaid, in just a little bit at the start of the next section. Um, our goal is to have as many paid as possible because
Yeah.
the number one reason a student declined internships last year was because it was an unpaid internship. And they said, if I'm going to be doing this instead of my job, I need to be paid, right? And it's just the more equitable approach if it's possible. And it also really makes the student sort of invested in the work and makes them feel valued, kind of what Jolene was mentioning earlier. It is absolutely possible to take an unpaid intern, though, for a for-profit organization is different than a nonprofit organization on what they can and cannot do. And again, I'll go over that in just probably in the next 10 minutes. Last year, it was 35% were paid and the rest were unpaid. We have set a much higher goal this year, and we hope to constantly increase that.
Sorry, because you could set it up where that's more of like a training period. I would love to keep them on. The interns I've had have all been a year plus.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, it's phenomenal results. So like I'm a little concerned what I can get done in 40 hours,
Yeah. Well, what's great about this program, we kind of didn't go over we kind of skipped over the by the number slide, which kind of talked about some of the successes of last year. One of the successes that we tout without having like tried to make this happen, but 1 in 4 interns stayed on past their internship.
Okay.
And so that's normal. That's great. I mean, that's a win for everyone if that's possible. So what I would say is you could use this as sort of a ramp up. And if for some reason that student's not working out, don't continue
Yeah.
to offer them. But especially if you're placed with like a senior, and you can specifically ask if you want to place me with a senior, not a junior. That way, once the internship is over and they graduate high school, then they're free to do maybe a full-time thing, if you wanted.
Okay.
Just consider if you get placed with a junior, that person might be free during summer, but then will eventually go back to school and have a limited schedule.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that distinction, because everyone I've worked with has been a graduate, high school graduate. But you're right. You can ramp up to that. Thank you.
Yeah. And most of the placements are seniors. We always try to prioritize seniors if possible. First of all, seniors have a more flexible schedule because they often will have a free period. But because it's their last opportunity to take a Path to Purpose internship, we try to prioritize seniors. And I can't remember the percentage, Jolene or Leslie, you might remember, but it was like 60 or 70% was seniors last year. Something like that.
Oh, okay.
You're on mute, Leslie.
70% ended up being seniors that we placed.
And like I said, Lisa, if you wanted to request that in the job description, you can do that. Like a senior.
Thank you. I'm seeing how this might be possible now.
Well, it's 10. Maybe we should. Oh, did you have another question?
Good.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Can you all see my screen now? Just get some head nods. Yep, great. Okay, so we want to kind of get into the actual, I need to actually, there we go. Get into the actual design of this. So within the next hour, we're going to be talking about the different structures of the internships. Is it something that's role specific? Is it rotational? If maybe you have a larger organization, is it paid or unpaid, Lisa, like you're asking about? And so we'll kind of talk about those different options, and then kind of some that are not necessarily options based on if it's paid or unpaid, because legally you're required not to do you're required to structure it in a certain way if it's unpaid. But I'll go into that. We want to kind of have you create, we say learning goals, but really it's kind of some basic goals for the internship. And then we'll start creating the job description. And our goal today is that you are leaving with a real strong foundation of what that role or multiple roles, if you might do that, are going to look like. We don't expect you to walk away with a full job description today. But we want to get you started. And also just kind of a thing to mention too, you can have multiple different interns in the same role. You can have multiple different interns in different roles. So think about that, especially if you're a larger organization. Eric at SCO, you've got an intern in your department, but I think you guys took 4 different interns in different departments, right? So stuff like that is totally possible. So structurally, just to start to think about in your mind that there's kind of 3 general structures to an internship, and it's going to depend on whatever works best for you and your organization. But one option is a rotational one that is great for larger organizations. If what you want it to be is more explorational, where an intern or interns are visiting multiple different departments just to kind of dip their toes into each and see what they're like. If you do something like that, you could always say, we're going to have you visit these 3 departments, and then halfway through the internship, we're going to have a conversation and you're going to tell us what really stood out to you, what you want to spend your majority of the rest of your time doing. You can do something like that too. And then it becomes rotational first and then role specific later, because role specific is something where they're in a particular department the entire time or in a particular role the entire time. And then there's the option of project-based. Project-based is going to be, say you're taking them on for these 40 hours and you have this project that you have had on the back burner that you just can't get to starting. Well, maybe bringing on an intern or two to really take that over the finish line is the way to make it work. It's also really great in certain situations where you want to use the youth for their youth perspective and capabilities. So I'm just going to give you an example. Like maybe you are thinking, how do I reach a younger audience for my business? Well, bring on an intern or two and then say, I want you, here's a project for you. I want you to help build me a marketing and outreach and social media plan for how to reach your generation, right? Who's going to be better suited for that than that generation? So there's also like specific projects that you can have them do. Now here's where we get to the paid or unpaid. So the big thing to think about is paid is always preferred, but unpaid is possible. But the difference on what somebody can do if they're unpaid changes, whether they're in a for-profit company or a nonprofit, government, or education. So a paid intern across the board, they're an employee. They can do meaningful work. If every once in a while you need to say, grab a broom and sweep the floors, that's okay. Hopefully that's not all they do, but like doing something that can meaningfully benefit the organization is great across the board if they're paid. An unpaid internship can do something that meaningfully benefits the organization as long as it's a nonprofit, the same way like a volunteer would benefit an organization like a nonprofit, or if they're in education or government. If you are a for-profit company, you cannot host an intern unpaid and have them do anything that is meaningful work that benefits the organization. Otherwise, they cannot do the work that a paid employee should be doing. So that also kind of just raises the question of when you're building the job description, what kind of work are they what are you expecting out of them? Are you expecting productive work output? Here at CT Foundation, we hosted 3 interns. We got a lot out of it. Like we got a lot of marketing ideas and perspectives, slide decks they put together. We got meaningful work. We did pay them though. And then the other option is something that's a little bit more observational, job shadow-ish. Those are like, are they really going to be not doing any hands-on stuff, but kind of observing how the business is run? Do I have any questions on kind of those key things? Because it's important that we understand that it's because of the legalities behind it. Any questions?
Yeah, I have
Sorry.
a question. Sorry. I
Go
can't
ahead,
find the
Kristen,
hand raise
and
thing.
yeah, no worries. Go ahead, Kristen, then we'll go to you, Lisa.
So in healthcare, we have required minimum wage restrictions for our employees. And I think that I would have to look into it. I'm not sure how that applies towards an internship, but I think currently it's $23 or $24 an hour, which is great for our employees, but it's a lot for an intern.
Yeah.
So we'd probably go unpaid, but I didn't know what your minimum wage was or if you had boundaries around that for the students.
As long as it's minimum wage, if they're paid, we want it to be minimum wage. So you might have a structure for employees, like maybe it's just like a rule within your organization to pay them at that. We wouldn't have that. Like you're welcome to pay them whatever the minimum wage is for your area.
Okay.
I think we continue to want to, I think there are opportunities as well to explore federal programs that actually, but they're a little bit tricky because they do there's some flexibility, but generally, to be able to tap into these federal programs that allow you to pay a training wage, I believe that there is a commitment to wanting to like hiring that person or at least considering that. So we've always wanted to explore those opportunities further, but and we will continue to look into that. But it's not like an easy program necessarily. Could just add more layers. And the other thing too, for those of you who are nonprofit organizations, actually everybody, we are like wanting to secure grant funding that actually supports building a stipend program for students. And this would be across the board likely for all students, whether or not they were unpaid or paid. But it would be an additional incentive for students to take on an unpaid internship. But as you know, it takes a lot of money. That's $50,000 or more that we need to raise in order to make it so that every student who accesses this program can potentially earn a meaningful stipend. So something we're working on for sure.
Lisa, did you have a question or?
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, let
I
me
think
share.
I'm up next to talk about some best practices around working with students. And these best practices were actually created in partnership with some of you, maybe, and many of our partners. We had a workshop last November that was led by Dr. Bay Jones, who is a specialist in building equitable opportunities for young people in the nation. And I just pasted a resource into the chat that you can tap into. And I found this very valuable for our organization. There's a checklist in terms of how you can set up an inclusive environment for the student intern. But a few things to highlight here. You've heard us talk about this before about learning goals and really working with students, to highlight their voice, ask them about, what they are interested in learning through this internship. So we're kind of asking you to do two things, right? We're asking you to set up a structure and to write a job description, but also be flexible with who walks through the doors eventually through this internship program. So, just kind of reflect on your own experience as a young person and what you would want to hear from an adult. So centering that student's voice, modeling vulnerability, share a mistake you've made or share an uncertainty you've had as you've grown through your work. I think it's really important to try to connect with students. Building a real connection, trying to ask them where they need support. And I think too, this isn't in here, but you may not be the best person to be a mentor for that student. You might be helping facilitate this internship, but there might be somebody in your organization that better reflects that student's identity, that might be a better match for them. So just be thinking about that too, about who might be in your organization a good fit for that student. Don't assume that they're going to need a certain level of support. They might be coming in with a lot more tools and resources than you know. And then I know Jolene talked about this too around communications and scheduling, but really be very clear about what your expectations are. And just be upfront about things. If they're not meeting your expectations, just be very clear about what they need to do to remedy that situation. One of the like I remember when we were doing this workshop, or I don't remember which one it was, but we had an internship host share about their experience with an intern who was showing up late every day for their internship, day after day or week after week, and they were a little bit frustrated and didn't quite know what to do. And so they actually ended up sitting down with the intern and having a conversation. And they learned that this internship, which was in Sonoma, the intern was traveling from northern Santa Rosa. And so they were getting on a bus with their bicycle or maybe the train, taking the train down to Petaluma, and then riding their bike across Highway 116 to get to the internship in Sonoma. This is like, when I heard this, I was freaking out because I was thinking about this little child riding on these highways. But these students are going to do what they want to do to get to the internship. And so just be compassionate about what they're bringing to this and be clear about what your expectations are.
Okay.
So as we go into building the job description and thinking about what that might look like and the tasks that the interns might have, I do want to bring up the learning goals one more time because that is something that is required and they're developing, but also it's something to keep in mind as you're building out the tasks. And so we don't know what your specific interns' learning goals would be until you've had that conversation with them. Um, but I do want to say, for me, with the intern that I hosted, um, none of her learning goals were super specific to the job that she was doing or where she was working. You know, it wasn't, I want to understand all the ins and outs of nonprofit work or anything like that. Um, it was more, I want to work on and improve my public speaking, right? So it was more focused on these general transferable skills. And I just think that's important to mention because I think it's helpful if you have some ideas of transferable skills that might be valuable for the intern to learn, and then you can use those to guide the tasks that they might be doing in the internship. And Eric, you're raising your hand if you have a question.
Yeah, I was gonna say that that's a really great point and something I hadn't considered when designing the internship that I used for the spring. And I plan to go back and update my job description because the students, when they're considering what types of internships they might want to be matched with, they're reading the job description. And in some ways, when you write the job description, you're trying to kind of sell high school students on this. And so I plan to kind of go back into my job description and like rework it a little bit to emphasize like these are some of the applicable skills that you can learn in this internship.
Right. And I
That
think,
also really helps. Oh, I just want to, sorry.
oh, no, go
I
ahead.
just that really helps us in the placement process because when we're, talking to students and hearing about what they're looking for, they'll tell us what they're hoping to get out of it. And sometimes it helps us pair based on, like what you say, Eric, like what you say they're going to get out of it will kind of help put those skills together.
Yeah, so I think it is really helpful if you're thinking about what you want students to get out of this and what kind of transferable skills you want them to learn and building a job description around that. Um, but also, if possible, if you could be flexible when you do end up hearing their goals and working some maybe alternative projects or tasks into the job description to fit those. And I want to share a few of the most common learning goals that students had last year. I think the top one I saw the most was public speaking. And that is a relatively easy one, depending on your organization, to work into the tasks in some way. So for us, our intern wanted to work on public speaking, and so we had her give us a research presentation on some research that she did. And then we also had her join us at a tabling networking event. And so she was able to kind of meet people that way and practice workplace communication. That's another really common goal, and that is whether that's talking directly one-on-one with adults or people in a professional manner. That could also be things like email. They might need a lot of practice with that. And then time management is another big one, which is a harder one to think of tasks that directly help them with time management. But towards the end, when we really start building out the job description, we actually have a document we'll share with a list of these transferable skills and some examples of tasks that they could complete to practice those.
Do you want me to show that now, Jolene, or later?
I can put it in the chat now if we want to do that.
Oh, yeah. There you go. And then people can view it on their own time. Great. All done with that slide, Jolene? All right. So this we kind of plan for this whole hour. We're going to go over things, but then, as Leslie mentioned, a large chunk at the end is just going to be us here answering questions as you start to get to work on your internship job description.
So the template is designed to help you create all the things you need. For us, you'll put that into a Google form eventually, but it's for you to be able to work offline while you collect the information that you need.
Yeah, so I just want to say why we do it this way before I kind of go over the job description template. Last year, we had what we call a job description template, and it was kind of a general structure in a Word document. Half the people followed it, half the people did not. And that's okay. We weren't super strict on it. It's just we didn't realize that when somebody's providing their own template, they might not have sections for the things that we need to know. Um, you know, very specific availability is a big piece of it. Do you need that student there at a monthly staff meeting that you're requiring, and when is that? There's like what is the physical address of the location? I know that sounds crazy, but some employers have multiple locations, and we might have thought it was at the main office, but it's at the production plant in a different city. And so those kinds of things, we realized we need a very structured template so that we make sure we gain all the information we need to place you with an intern that's the best fit. So that's why this is important. We're showing you the Word document that you can work off of, or I should say Google Doc that you can work off of as sort of a template, but eventually you will need to put it all into the Google form. So, all right, let's go over this real quick. Can you all see my screen, my Word doc? Yep. So again, as I mentioned before with the different structures, it just starts off by just consider the different structures that you want this to be before creating this. There will be 3 different contacts you're going to put in throughout this form. The first one is going to be who's filling out this form, who's that contact. The second one right down underneath is who's going to sign the MOU. So Lisa, I know you're a small business. You're probably both, right? You're probably the one filling it out and the one signing the MOU. And you're probably the third option, which is who's the direct supervisor. But in a lot of businesses, those are 3 different people. So you'll actually have the ability in the Google form, you say, are you also the signer? And if you say yes, it'll just skip the next section, for example. But that's why we ask so many kind of different versions of who are you, who's the MOU signer, who's the supervisor. Kristen, you have your hand up?
Off mute. I'm looking at the form and I'm only seeing 2 MOU signer, and then
the supervisor
is internship overview.
The supervisor will be later. I'm just pointing out that eventually,
got it.
Throughout
going through the form.
Yeah, I'm just saying eventually throughout this form, you'll see the space for 3 different contacts.
Got it.
And I just
Thank
wanted to
you.
kind of clarify at the beginning what those 3 are. Okay, again, this right here is a sample filled out form, just so you can see what it looks like. But then it goes into the internship overview, and that is what is the title, what's the physical address where it will take place. And then a big part for us that's going to help us a lot is if you were to identify 1 or 2, possibly even 3 industry sectors that would kind of be categorized for that particular role, not the industry as a whole. They might be the same, but as an example that we even say in here, perhaps there's an IT tech support type position in a healthcare company. Well, if you just put healthcare, then we're likely going to, immediately see that and go, let's try to pull some healthcare students in. But that's not what you really want. You want a techie student in. So what you would want to do in something like that is, if it was a IT role in healthcare, you would probably go, number 9, healthcare, but you'd probably also go number 5, digital technology. In this case, for this role, for this sample, it's both on the education side and the healthcare side. And you can click as many as you want. And since you're going to be filling out one of these for each unique role that you have, now you can have 10 people in this position. Just tell us you want 10 and you only do one job description. But if you have 3 different roles, then I'll need 3 different job descriptions. And then a little bit of info about your organization and your team so that we know, okay, what is it that you do? What is it that the, what department are they going to be in this role? Go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about the rotation internship, which would still be a cross department. So for that purpose, it would be one application. You just talk about the different areas. It wouldn't be this is the application for when you're in this office. This is it, right?
Yes. Thank you for clarifying. Yes.
Yep.
Now, if you were going to have we at Kaiser, for example, we had an intern in digital imaging, and then Jolie and Leslie, you have to remind me what the second one was. But there's 2 different departments, 2 different roles. However, a rotational one is just one job description. Yeah. And then, when you kind of talk about what they'll be doing, you can kind of specify that. They will be rotating through this, through this, through this. Here's the learning goals and responsibilities. So what are your goals for them to gain at the end of this? And what responsibilities might they have? These are all kind of standard stuff. Paid or unpaid, what the compensation is, your preferred skills. So what interests, what skills and interests do you want that intern to have? If they're working with clientele, you want them to be friendly and empathetic or something like that. The direct supervisor, again, that's where I was saying this is the 3rd time you'll have to put in contact info. What's the work environment like? And what are the dress codes? So work environment, if it's an agricultural based and they might be working a lot outdoors, that's a certain type of student that would want that versus somebody who's working in an office. So tell us kind of the different work environments. Also, when it comes to dress code or something, is it a suit and tie type place or is it very casual? Is it you're outdoors all day, so make sure you're protecting yourself from the sun? Or is it I'm in a manufacturing plant and they're going to have to be wearing a helmet, protective eyewear, closed-toed shoes, etc. We added this because we have had only a couple instances where a student might be speaking English as their second language and they're not as proficient. And it was a little bit of a challenge. And so what we've added is the question of, do you have somebody on site who speaks Spanish that can assist a student who might not be as fluent in English? And that will just make sure that if we have a student who is not as confident to speak English, we'll make sure to kind of place them with somebody who might have some Spanish speakers on site. Kristen.
So yeah, just clarification on this one. That wouldn't necessarily have to be the supervisor. I mean, we have lots of Spanish speakers on site, but they wouldn't necessarily be in the supervisory role, but they could support if need be.
Yeah, that's why we kind of just said someone on site.
Yeah,
Therefore, if there is a little bit of a barrier, maybe that they can guide some discussions. But it doesn't have to be the supervisor, no. Good. Thank you, Kristen. You're asking all these great questions. I appreciate it so much. Requirements. Do they need to have a driver's license? Do they need to be 18 years old? In this case, maybe they need some vaccinations to work in a clinic, right? What are the requirements that they need before they start? And then one of the most important things is, what is your availability to host an intern? So we're not asking, we had this happen a lot last year where we get a job description and they, under availability, they just said flexible. And it's great. Well, what does flexible mean? Does that mean we can place someone with you who has very little availability and you'll make it work? Or do you mean flexible within your 8 to 5 workday? Because those are two very different things. And so we are just now asking, like, just tell us the hours in which you are available to host an intern. And we will make sure that if we place a student with you, they are also available within those hours. And then the last thing is there any specific days or times that you need them to be available? And Jolene kind of briefly mentioned this earlier, but like, we did have a situation where there was an internship where there was a specific staff meeting that they needed to be at. And admittingly, they had it on the job description, but we didn't think it was a requirement, and it was, and that kind of was a real challenge. So whatever required times you might need, especially outside the regular workday, let us know. Like if you have monthly workshops in the evening or whatever that they are helping facilitate. And that's kind of it. And I actually realized I skipped over the question over here, how many interns? So that's an important thing for us to know too. I know I just went through a lot. Any questions on any of that about why we ask certain things? Great. Give me a quick sec. So what we're going to do now is, all right, we're going to kind of go into an independent work session. So for this next half hour, we want you to just work off of the template, or we can put the direct link to the Google form in if you are thinking you're ready to actually just submit something and work on it right now. We can put that link into the chat. It's also on our website too, but start just to think about what's the structure, and start building your template. The 3 CT Foundation folks are going to be here. And if you have a question that you think is kind of a universal question that maybe everybody else might want to know, feel free to ask it openly here while we're all kind of silent and working. However, if you have a question specifically about like, hey, I need to talk through this particular role I'm thinking about, just raise your hand, and what we'll do is we'll put you in a breakout room with one of the CT Foundation staff, and you can talk it through. Kristen, do you have a question now, or are you saying you want to go into a breakout room?
No,
Okay.
what I need to do is reach out to my team. Now I have this information and determine, what the interest is, what the level of interest is, who's willing to sort of step up and do this. I think it's a great program, and I really appreciate how thorough the information is that you've shared today. So thank you for that. I think, Leslie, you had mentioned that Santa Rosa Community Health had participated in the program.
Yes.
And if it's possible to share their job description with me so I can see how they kind of looked at it, or I don't know, did Alliance do anything with you or not?
Alliance didn't, but we had Sonoma Valley Community Health and Santa Rosa. So I'm happy to share both of those. And you can also, Anne Marie and Teresita actually oversaw the intern, and so they're a great resource as well.
Sure. Yeah, I know Anne Marie and Teresita well. So
yeah, great. But we can send those out today.
Okay. Perfect. So I'm going to jump off and let all you workshoppers workshop, but I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Okay, bye.
Adriana?
So we, County of Sonoma HR, and last year what we had our intern do was kind of rotate through and learn different areas of HR. But I think this year what we're going to do is make it more specific and actually have them working on our a specific web page, one of our web pages. So I want someone that is more technical and interested in web design. So it has really not anything to do with HR. And so is that okay? We can tailor it to something like that.
Totally. That's very similar to the kind of example I used before when I was mentioning how like when you're talking about kind of the different sector that this would take, yours would be more in the digital and IT section than it would be in in human resources, right?
Right.
And yeah, you could build your entire job description on that, and we'll make sure we connect you with a techie kid.
Great. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Yeah.
Steve or Luis, I'm wondering if either of you have any questions or thoughts.
Trying
Yeah.
to.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Luis.
Yeah, I was just going to say something that like this all sounds amazing, and I would love the opportunity to be able to continue working it. My only concern is I know earlier on in the call you mentioned that there are students who perhaps don't get out of school until 3:30, and we are Monday through Friday. We do close at 5 p.m. So the availability, it seems to be very limited. So I just
Well,
wanted to kind of
yeah.
see what the pool of participants that
Yeah.
maybe have more availability looks like, to see if it's something that would be feasible for us to take on.
Yeah, actually, the cool thing is that Cloverdale High School actually has a work experience course that they offer students. And so it's a very unique opportunity for those students in that community. Very few of our high schools have those right now. But that means that, and I don't exactly know Cloverdale's schedule, but I think that means that at least 2 days a week, a student very likely gets out more at the midday time frame because it's that last period of the day. And I think they're on a block schedule there. And so there's actually quite a bit of availability for Cloverdale students, as far as I know. And Jolene, you might be able to correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure that Cloverdale actually has the most flexibility of many of our schools.
Okay, great. That's wonderful to hear because we're actually directly across their campus.
I
So
know.
it would be very feasible for them to just walk over. That was really my only concern, was just like the availability and the timing of it all. But thank you for answering that. That clears it up for me.
Yeah.
Leslie, obviously, Windsor high school students would connect well with us. Healdsburg, Santa Rosa also, just because we're close, but we are in Windsor. The timing works fine for me because we often have classes most every day in the late afternoon, early evening. So I'm not worried about the timing at all. That works good. I'm familiar with the SRJC work experience program. I do have some questions that we could talk offline about the yearly requirements for mandated reporting, stuff like that. We talk offline about that. I don't want to bog other people down with that. But I am going to I've been in communication this morning with one of my coordinators. I'm going to task one of my coordinators with taking lead on the next steps.
Perfect.
So that we can be ready for the January 2027 semester for this. Yeah,
Thank you. Great.
That's really all I want to say.
Thanks so much. Yeah, just reach out around some of those requirements for sure.
Sure.
And so this is a template, and then what I'm working on, and then we will take this template and move it into a Google Doc. Okay, so you'll send that to us. Okay, sounds good.
I just put the Google Doc link in. We just know that a lot of people might be getting started on it and might not wanted to finish it today. You're welcome, absolutely, to go ahead and submit something through Google directly if you'd rather do that. I just put the link in the chat. And we'll send all of this out after this as well.
Yeah, no, I like the template because so I will have other departments probably use this template, and then I need to vet what they are putting in as a job description, depending on if it's paid or unpaid, because we have some very strict guidelines. If they're producing a body of work, you have to pay them. And so that is it's what I tell everybody. So I need to vet it before it gets put into the template. And so I think this will work for us, for our various departments.
Sure, great.
And so